Last week I have finally done a big closet clear out, and as I was going through my knits I noticed that most of these I'm actually not wearing anymore. So I started asking myself, why do I have so many unloved knits in my wardrobe? And after pondering on this question for a little bit, I came up with the reasons, and today I wanted to share those reasons with you so that you can hopefully avoid those mistakes in future. So grab your whip, your beverage of choice, and let's talk about my unloved knits and what I've learned from them. So first up, I just wanted to put a little disclaimer out there. You will hear a lot of Petite Knit in this video. Petite Knit design, again by Petite Knit, and that is simply because when I started out knitting, I knitted a lot of Petite Knit. Like so many of you, I was really attracted to these modern silhouettes and sort of effortless looking designs. And when I was starting out, I wasn't as experienced about knitting as I am now. So a lot of my mistakes happened in that first sort of few years of knitting for myself. That's why there's a lot of mention of Petite Knit patterns. I just wanted to say it's just about me being an inexperienced knitter and not making wise choices. Right, let's get into it. So I've picked 5 things out of my wardrobe that I really am not happy with and that I really would love to change in future, but that I have learned a lot from. So here goes in no particular order. First up, the Anker's summer shirt. This is a Petite Knit design. I have made it in a size medium and I have used Drops Belle for this. Now in the pattern she recommends using Sandnes Line, which is exactly the same yarn constitution as Drops Belle. Now the reason that it's unloved is because it's completely lost its shape. So at least the first version that I did has. I've basically finished knitting it, came off my needles, I've blocked it and then put it into my washing machine to spin like I've done with all my other things that I have knitted up until that point. And when it came out, it was so stretched out and so big that the normal sitting neckline, which kind of started about an inch away from your natural starting points of your neck, so it sit kind of like here, the neckline had grown so much that it was actually becoming a boat neck, and I was not happy with it at all. It looked so massive on me and did not fit how I wanted it to fit. Luckily, my mom really liked it and she now adopted the piece, but I was not happy with it at all, to the point where I just ended up knitting another one for myself in the exact same way, but then I skipped the spin in the washing machine after I had finished. Now back then, I didn't actually realize that the cause of the problem was the yarn that I used for this type of a construction. The Anker summer shirt is a round yoke construction, which inherently has less structural integrity and structural support than other design constructions, like a drop shoulder, which has seams along the shoulders and picked up stitches along the arms, or a seamed garment. And so I chose a plant-based yarn because that's what was recommended in the pattern. And together with a round yoke construction that has less structural integrity, that didn't pair well. And the slick plant-based fibers don't offer a lot of hold or elasticity. They have nothing to be anchored on in the design. And so it was just the perfect storm for creating something that will not last. And that's what happened. So I've basically learned the hard way that the construction of a garment and the fiber that you choose on your yarn do need to fit together and go together for a lasting garment. If you want to learn a little bit more about construction and fiber constitution and how the two need to fit together and can fit together, I've made a little video about it. I'll leave the link up here for you. But I should have basically used a yarn that has at least, I would say, 50% of a wool content in it to offer a little bit more hold and elasticity in the garment. So I think the recommended yarn is actually not the best one to use for a long living garment that keeps its shape. In future, what I'll do is not pick any round yoke designs for summer knits, because I really think they are not suited for the sort of yarns that we want to use in summer. We need a little bit more structure and hold in the garment design. Just look for something that's more of a drop shoulder, or ideally a seamed garment, or maybe a raglan that I can add fake seams to, the basting stitch. Again, it's in that video, I'm gonna link up here. Just so that I can use a plant-based yarn, which offers me the moisture absorbance and breathability that I so want in a summer garment, but it gives me a garment that will have much more structural integrity and that will keep its shape and last for years to come. So yeah, check out the construction, make sure that the fibers that you want to use will give you some hold and elasticity, and that the construction will have some anchoring points in the form of seams. That's the first sort of lesson I've learned here. The second unloved knit in my collection was the Copenhagen cardigan, again by Petite Knit, knitted in a size medium, and this time I held Drops Flora together with a strand of Drops Kid Silk, which again I think is an equivalent to what she's used in the pattern, just from a budget yarn company. And I basically didn't know about the magic and importance of blocking. And it became unloved because it had a completely weird shape to it. If you've been around for a minute, you actually know that I have since then chopped into this cardigan and altered it with my sewing machine to make it fit me again and to make me wear it again, which has actually worked. Again, I'll leave a link up here if you fancy seeing that. But basically, I didn't know about the importance of blocking a garment after you have first knitted it. And I was just so keen and eager to wear it that I kind of just steam blocked it a little bit because the button band kept rolling, but I've not done that properly. That first block is like some sort of magic, and you can't get the first block back again. Like any subsequent wash just will not work the same way as the first block. And so I've kind of messed it up at that stage. The button band had a weirdly pointy hem. And then I've also started on a hanger in my closet for years and years and years and years. And I think under the weight of itself and the impressions of the hanger, the yoke started growing so much and it became a very wide-necked garment, which I really didn't like as well. So there are loads of points that just didn't fit the way I wanted them to anymore. And that's why I've kind of never worn it, which was a shame because it's a really lovely little garment. The color is quite universal, goes with a lot of things in my wardrobe. But like I said, I since then have been able to sort of reclaim it and alter it with my sewing machine to just fix those areas that I didn't like, to improve the fit. And I've actually ended up making it into a V-neck, which is amazing because it goes with so many more things in my wardrobe. And I'm really glad that I gave that a try and just tried to make it something that I love again. But since then, I have learned that blocking is a non-negotiable. I always will finish a project with blocking. And also you need to store your knits laying flat or doing this magic trick where you can put it on a hanger, but you're not really hanging it. That's basically been my lessons from my unloved Copenhagen cardigan. The third unloved sweater in my closet was my Novice Sweater Mohair Edition. Again, designed by Petite Knit. I made it in a size medium, and again, I have substituted the yarn suggestion with the Drops variety, which was 2 strands of kid silk held together. And I think the only modification I made was to do 3/4 length sleeves. Now, this piece is unloved because I have made it for sort of the transitional months or some lightly warmer days. So I was thinking I would wear this piece on its own without anything underneath. But I didn't quite consider the yarn choice and how this yarn would feel on my skin without any kind of barrier in between. And that was where the crux of the problem lies, because I find mohair on its own quite itchy. I love holding it with something else, but on its own, I just can't stand it on my skin. So this piece that I was kind of intending to wear during warmer months, I can't really wear during warmer months. And I don't really like that look with anything underneath it. So I basically rarely ever wear it. And if I do, then just for a few hours. I have tried wearing it with a sort of oversized shirt underneath, but it's just not kind of a look that I like or prefer. I feel like the 3/4 length sleeve doesn't really work with that. So I've basically not really considered the yarn choice here again and how the fibre would feel bare on my skin. And that was the problem. Now I have actually made another version of this sweater with a different yarn. This time I held the Rowan Fine Lace, which is a lace weight, but it's made of wool, I think, or some kind of wool. And then with 1 strand of a kid silk mohair, and that worked so much better. That's a piece that I actually wear time and time again. I love throwing it on. It's a great transitional piece because it's really thin, the gauge is slightly more open, and it's not as itchy. I actually love the feel of it on my skin, and I love the color that it created. It really reminds me of Scottish heather, actually. The fine lace was in this beautiful deep plum color, almost like my fireplace, actually. I feel like there's a theme going on there. And then I held it with a lighter, I think a pink kid silk strand, probably left over from the mohair sweater. And that together just created such an interesting mix. I really like mismatching my main color yarn and my mohair color yarn, because I think it creates really interesting sort of speckled marbly effects and mixes in the resulting fabric. Yeah, that version I really love wearing. If you find mohair really itchy on your skin and you'd love to knit a lighter garment, then maybe opt for a lace weight yarn that's made of maybe a merino or an alpaca, something that you like on your skin. And then if you can tolerate it, you could hold it with a lace weight mohair, or just hold 2 of those alpaca or whatever lace weights together. So yeah, that one I love so much more. I have definitely learned my lesson there, but it's a bit of a shame about that mohair sweater. We live and learn. And we have definitely learned from this next mistake. This time it's not a Petite Knit pattern. It's my second ever sock pattern that I've knitted. And it was for a test knit for Denim Rain fibers. It's the Hawkins Socks. I was really excited. I think it was the first ever test knit that I was part of. So I was really excited to get going. And as you might be able to tell by the name, the theme of the socks was sort of 80s, so drawing on Hawkins, which is the town that Stranger Things takes place in. I was a big Stranger Things fan. Was really keen on getting into that test knit, and you basically had one main color for the main body of the sock, and then you had 2 contrasting stripes at the cuff of the sock. I've picked a beautiful superwash merino yarn in a DK for my main color, and it came in a pack with the pink contrast that I have in there, but I still needed another contrasting color. So I went through my stash and I found this brown, which was a pure wool. I think the Jacob wool or something from West Yorkshire Spinners. Can't remember, but yeah, that was a pure wool. One day the socks ended up in the wash and the brown stripe felt it, didn't it? So basically I all of a sudden had a sock that I couldn't get past my heel anymore, because this one stripe of brown had felted and shrunk so much that the cuff was really, really tight now. And that was the end of those socks. I think I actually still have them, because I'm thinking of just re-knitting the cuff and removing the felted area basically. But that lesson has taught me to always match the yarns that I'm using, even if it's from different brands, but use a superwash together with a superwash, or use wool together with wool, because they'll all behave differently once they're getting blocked or washed. And it was really, really sad, because I loved wearing those socks. They were so comfortable, they fitted so well, they were so cozy. I think that's why I just kept them, in hope that one day I'll find the energy to reknit the cuff. Yeah, always match your yarns. And the last design I wanted to share was my Maman sweater, my beloved very first own knitwear design. And I've knitted that in a size E. The reason that I don't love it anymore is the color choice. I have never knitted anything with a white yarn before, and I just love that idea of the white main color and the blue stripes. But I didn't quite consider how much stains and makeup would transfer onto that white collar, even though it was sitting sort of quite far away from the neck. But just putting it on, and I think maybe sweating or what, I always have makeup stains around that collar. And because it's white, it's showing up so massively from the start that I rarely ever wear it. And I feel like I constantly have to rewash the collar and get rid of those stains. So that's why it's kind of become really unloved and unworn. And the other reason that I don't wear it anymore is because the arm length isn't quite as long as I should have made it. So I've made it to just hit right at my wrist, which is what I wanted back in the day. But I think now I prefer something that's a slight bit longer. And also I think just by, using your arm and bending it, the sleeve has actually creeped up a little bit more, maybe like a centimeter or so. So it's even shorter now, and it just looks like it's too short. I feel like it looks unintentionally too short. And that's why I kind of don't like wearing it anymore. And then paired with the fact that the collar is constantly stained, I just don't like wearing it anymore. So I definitely want to knit myself another Maman sweater, but I actually have some plans for updating that pattern. So I think the next one will be in a darker main color and with some updates to improve the shape of it. That's kind of why I don't wear that one anymore, even though it hurts my soul because it was my very first little baby and I really enjoyed making it and the whole process of making it. But it's just no good making a light colored sweater, I think. So that's a list of my unloved knits and what I've learned from them. It's a shame that they're just sitting in my closet kind of gathering dust. But on the other hand, it's also good to sit back and reflect and have a think about why you didn't love them. And it's definitely made me much more aware of having to consider my fiber choices a lot more than I used to do. I basically just used to go off and see what the recommendation is, and if I couldn't afford that yarn, I went to Drops and kind of had a look what the equivalent sort of is in the Drops yarn or something that I could substitute with in order to hit the right gauge and sort of get the same type of fabric with the same kind of drape. But I think I have to be a little bit more considerate about it and consider the construction of the garment with my yarn choice, but also how I'm going to wear it. And if it's close to my skin, it has to be soft because I don't like itchy yarns. The other thing that I've learned is storing your knits really matters and blocking your knits really matters, especially that first time. So no more hanging things from hangers. Everything is in boxes now, folded up so that I can zip them shut so that there's no moss going in, but also so that they don't lose their shape hanging up. And then I've also learned that if you're doing stripes and using scrap yarn for it, you have to match the fibers and the fiber types. So superwash with superwash and non-superwash with non-superwash. And then lastly, I think if I'm using a light colored yarn, I need to be aware that it might stain very easily. And I need to make that choice very consciously. So definitely at the forefront of my mind now, every time I gravitate towards a white or light colored yarn. But you know what? We live and learn. We live and learn and we just grow from our mistakes. And hopefully you will now know about some mistakes that I made so that you don't have to make them yourself. So I really hope that you found this video useful and informative. Like I said, if you want to learn a bit more about construction and fibers and how they can match together, then watch my summer knitting tips video that I have just released. And other than that, thank you for spending some time with me. If you want to support my channel, the best thing that you can do is just click on the next video. YouTube loves that kind of stuff. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'll leave my handle right here for you. And I shall see you again soon in another video. Bye!